What's going on, gang gang? Y'all know what it is. Louie T Network podcast coming at you on a Friday before the divisional round weekend of playoff games. We're going to break down all 4 games, give you a winner, and talk about the ramifications of what might take place this weekend. It's going to be exciting, even down to the Jacksonville Jaguars being in the divisional round after a crazy comeback victory last weekend. So we'll get to all of that. It's lion season, so I got some more rumors or something I think we need to keep a watchful eye on as the offseason progresses. All of that and more here on the 311th installment of the Louie T Network podcast that starts now. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. This has been, for a week where Monday was an off day, this has been a long week. I mean, Martin Luther King Day was Monday, and I saw some beautiful ceremonies continuing to uplift his legacy. And usually when that Monday isn't a work day, and it's a little different for me. I don't work your standard 9 to 5. So I don't know if I feel it like I used to once upon a time in my former life when I had to punch the clock. But it still is supposed to make the week go by faster. Didn't necessarily feel like that this week for some reason. I don't know why, but it didn't feel like a shortened week. Felt like a normal Monday through Friday grind. But nevertheless, we made it to the finish line. It is Friday. For some of y'all, just got paid Friday night. For others, it's just Friday night, man. Didn't get any more bread, but it is Friday, and I'm ready to get to the weekend and kick back and relax. So that is exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to set the tone for the weekend. We're going to break down all 4 divisional matchups, and I think this is going to be a fantastic weekend. I told you last week it was either going to be a really good weekend in wild card weekend or it's going to be really bad. I didn't think there was an in-between. And we got a really good weekend of football. There were 3 phenomenal games, and then the 2 that one started, one ended. I told you they were like the end bread, the butt bread, if you will, of a beautiful wild card weekend sandwich. And so this week, I think there's going to be one stinker out of the group. I don't know if I can identify that stinker right now, but I do think one's going to be a decisive win for someone. And then I think the other 3 games are going to be very, very competitive, with 2 going down to the wire and 1 just being kind of back and forth. But, it's not necessarily a, last team with the football type of game where I think the other 2 will be. But we'll see. We'll get to that in a bit. I want to start the show off, as I always do, with a gem dropping session. So let's do that, shall we? I think we shall. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind. Let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So I told you guys it's officially lying season, right? John Harbaugh came on yesterday, or had a presser yesterday after the mutual parting of ways with Greg Roman, their former offensive coordinator. And he said that Lamar Jackson would be a part of the hiring process. He would be a part of the process in hiring the next offensive coordinator. Again, it's lion season, man. Take it with a grain of salt. Understand that they could be posturing. I told you, there's no guarantee that Lamar Jackson is even back next year. They could franchise tag him and trade him this offseason. That is still within the realm of possibility. I've already given you a scenario in which they sit down at the table with Lamar. Remember, he's his own agent, so there's no buffer there. Okay, there's no one sitting there taking the ammunition and bullets from the Ravens organization. These things happen in negotiations. They try to make their case as to why you shouldn't be paid XYZ. And you're not in the meetings. You're not in these meetings when that dialogue takes place. You're shielded from that by your agent. And usually it's a good thing because the team can be very harsh. That's what negotiations are. They're harsh. Okay. At the end of the day, and you hear a lot of players say it's business, not personal. It's damn near impossible for it not to turn personal, because this is your livelihood you're talking about. And when somebody tells you, hey, you've got to, kind of just wait and see how the situation plays itself out, that's something tough to ask someone to do. They've worked their entire lives to get into a position where they can, make either generational wealth or at least enough money to pay back all the people that have invested in them to get to the point where they're at, and then still have a little bit of money to maybe buy them a house or buy their mother or dad a house or whatever the case may be. So yeah, it does get a little personal, but the good thing is the agent is there taking most of the bullets. That's not going to be the case with Lamar. And they could sit down for 6 hours and Lamar could be steadfast in his belief that he should be paid a fully guaranteed contract. And it should sound something like 5 years, $250 million. And the Ravens could say, Lamar, we can't do that. And Lamar is like, well, if you can't do it, trade me. They could walk away and say, okay, we'll do what we have to do. So there's no guarantees here, right? But I want to go from one quarterback to another quarterback. So I don't know if you guys saw the post or not. And this could be nothing. It could be something. It could be everything. It could be nothing. We don't know. This is why social media can be very misleading and can be very cryptic. And I think that's why players choose this route to voice their frustration sometimes, or because it could have a million different meanings and they just leave it up to interpretation. So I talked about this on the last podcast episode. GM Ron Carthon, now of the Tennessee Titans, formerly of the San Francisco 49ers, where he was the director of player personnel for the 49ers. Before that, the previous 2 years, he was the pro personnel director in San Francisco, or the player or the pro player personnel director. So there was a post on IG from quarterback Trey Lance of the San Francisco 49ers, second-year quarterback, started out the season as the starter in San Francisco. Just want to give you a little bit of background information on where Trey Lance's head is. And again, you can draw your own inference. So the thumbnail that you see for the video, I don't know if you guys saw the thumbnail or not. If you haven't, just take a look at it. There is a post from Trey Lance with a picture of Ron Carthon as a member of the 49ers, director, player, personnel. And then there's 3 emojis with their fingers crossed, right? Now, you could view this post one of 2 ways, okay? Now, let me give you a little bit of background information before I give you the 2 options. Keep in mind that Trey Lance was selected number 2 overall by the San Francisco 49ers. Not number 2, number 3 overall by the San Francisco 49ers in the 2021 NFL draft. Keep in mind that the 49ers were supposed to trade Jimmy Garoppolo last offseason. Jimmy had to have shoulder surgery. All trade options pretty much dried up, and he was brought back. Trey Lance was not happy about that, okay? He wanted a clean slate. He wanted to start anew, and he did not want the ghost of Jimmy Garoppolo haunting him as he tried to embark on his first NFL season as a starter. Mind you, Jimmy Garoppolo took the San Francisco 49ers to the NFC Championship game just the year before. Okay. So fast forward to present day. Trey Lance got injured in week 3, broke his ankle, gonna miss the entirety of the 2022 NFL season, has missed all of the season to this point. Jimmy Garoppolo, the guy that he didn't want still in San Francisco, ends up taking over, stabilizes the football team. Remember, they didn't start out well. The 49ers, if I'm not mistaken, they started out the season 1-4, I think they were. I'm trying to think. Maybe they were 2-4. They were 3-4, excuse me. They started the season off 3-4. They weren't great to start the season off. Then they ran off 10 straight. Half of that was Jimmy Garoppolo. The latter half was Brock Purdy. 7th round pick, Mr. Irrelevant, final pick of the 2022 NFL draft. Quarterback out of Iowa State, steps in and picks right up where Jimmy Garoppolo left off and actually carries the baton a little bit further. He's playing well. Everyone's drooling over this guy. Everyone's kind of giving him the next Tom Brady vibe, right? Like, man, late round draft pick, everybody kind of overlooked. Remember, the story is very similar. It's not exactly the same, but there's a lot of similarities. Brady in his rookie season takes over for veteran Drew Bledsoe, who takes a massive shot by the sidelines. Brady steps in, does nothing but win. They win the Super Bowl. We all remember the, image of Brady, hands on head, shaking in disbelief as they beat the greatest show on turf, the St. Louis Rams, and the rest is history. Brock Purdy steps in for Jimmy Garoppolo, who gets injured. He does nothing but win. They're now in the divisional round. He has not lost a game yet. 7th round pick. Brady was a 6th round pick. Afterthought. You get where I'm going with this. Anyway, Trey Lance is no dummy. He sees the tea leaves, the writing on the wall. Keep in mind, and we don't know, again, lying season always applies. So we don't know if Kyle Shanahan was serious back in 2022 or 2021, excuse me, when he said he wanted Mac Jones. Who? Mac Jones. The mickety, Mac. Bo, the mickety, Mac. He preferred Mac Jones, but everyone else around him, and I sided with the rest of the crowd, right? Everyone else around him wanted Trey Lance, said he was the perfect fit. And I was having a discussion with my buddy the other day, and I was telling him, I said, there aren't, I've been quote unquote scouting, which, we're all armchair scouts, right? We're all at home watching clips of, guys on our computers or, mobile devices, whatever. And we call ourselves scouting these prospects the best we can, right? I'm guilty of that. I've been doing it now for a decade. Okay. Started in 2012 and we're here in present day going into the 2023 draft. That said, when I first started, it was a lot easier to watch a quarterback, albeit Kirk Cousins or Russell Wilson or Andrew Luck, Ryan Tannehill, Brandon Whedon. Those were the quarterbacks in that 2012 draft, right? Robert Griffin III. It was so much easier to just turn on games of those quarterbacks and see NFL qualities and NFL offense and things that could transfer from the collegiate game to the NFL. There was a lot more pro-style offense being run in college at that time. And so you could see transferable traits. Okay, guy under center, guy actually calling out plays in the huddle, not looking to the sideline and seeing 16 different cards being held up and having that be the way everybody gets the play call, right? You could see a guy turn his back to the defense on play action fake and set up in the pocket. You could see footwork. These were all things that were transferable traits that you could actually see watching a guy in college that really doesn't exist anymore. As we see more and more of the college game infiltrate the NFL, teams starting to adapt and adjust to what these guys are good at, you're seeing more of that infiltrate the NFL. And so it's becoming easier to see how a guy can potentially fit into the NFL. However, there's still pro style aspects that you just don't get to see. Footwork, play action fake, turning your back to a defense, bootleg, those types of things, calling a play in the huddle, all of that stuff, it's pretty much gone by the wayside. Most of these quarterbacks are in the gun primarily. They're not really turning their backs to the defense all that often. They're not under center pretty much at all. And so it was so easy watching the Trey Lance film at North Dakota State because they literally were running a form of the Shanahan offense, essentially. They're under center almost every single snap. They're running outside zone, inside zone, bootlegs. You got to see him essentially running the Shanahan scheme. And so it made that evaluation so easy. And even Kyle Shanahan, who probably did, and again, we can't confirm nor deny this, probably did prefer Mac Jones. And when you think about it, when he said that in the moment, I'm like, you got to be kidding me, Kyle. This kid here, Trey Lance, I get it. He's raw. Only 1 year as a starter at North Dakota State. I get all of that. But when you look at the film, this is your offense. He's running your scheme. You can see how this kid would fit in San Francisco, right? If you sit down and you talk to this kid at the combine, you get an individual meeting and he comes to your facility and he's smart and he gets it. This is the kid. And even though Mac Jones can probably come in and run your offense tomorrow, he can't run the way Trey Lance runs. There's an upside there that exists with a mobile quarterback that doesn't with a guy like Mac Jones, who isn't as athletic. And so you have to take the guy with the higher upside. I think he was convinced of that. But think about Kyle Shanahan's background for a second. The quarterbacks he's had the most success with, they've all looked like Mac Jones. Think about it. The success in Atlanta with Matt Ryan, the success in Houston with Matt Schaub, the success that he had with Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, most of these guys are statues. They're not mobile quarterbacks, but they get it. They get the ball out. It goes where it needs to go. And so you could see him wanting a guy like Mac Jones. Enter in Brock Purdy, who's a lot like a Mac Jones or a Matt Ryan or a Matt Schaub, okay? He's more like a Jimmy Garoppolo in the sense that he understands where the ball, and I'm not saying Trey Lance doesn't, but I think there was this built-in mindset going into this season from the 49ers camp that we were going to have to take our lumps with Trey Lance. As a first-year starter, this kid wasn't going to come in here and light the NFL on fire. They lost to the Bears in week 1. I get it. It was a slop fest. It was a monsoon, but there was going to be some growing pains with this kid. He's going to make some mistakes. They're going to have to just kind of grit their teeth and get through it. And then maybe next year he'd be ready to turn it around and finally turn it up, right? Well, Brock Purdy has hit the ground running. There has been no learning curve. Hasn't been any real bumps in the road. He's been able to come in, run Kyle Shanahan's offense to perfection almost. And there hasn't been any drop off from what they were getting from Jimmy Garoppolo. And just take yourself back to where you were in the moment when you found out Jimmy Garoppolo had broken his foot against the Miami Dolphins. In that game, remember, the Dolphins going into that game, one of the best teams in football at the time. Think about what you thought about that game in particular and what was going to come of the 49ers season moving forward. They went from, in your mind, probably, I can't confirm nor deny that. I can't tell you how you felt. I can tell you how I thought about it. They went from Super Bowl contender to, damn, that sucks. Well, they'll get them next year. Now look where they are. And so I give you the backdrop of all of that because I think Kyle Shanahan is thinking to himself, this Brock Purdy kid, this reminds me, and this is what you have to take into consideration. Again, I'm giving you more backstory here, more, framework, right? More reference points, just things to consider, just food for thought. You do the dishes, okay? If anybody knows what it's like to coach two players in a situation and have it be as uncomfortable as it can be with a first round draft pick, a guy that goes in the top 5, and then a later round draft pick who ultimately turns out to be better than him, it's Kyle Shanahan. Okay. This exact same situation happened in Washington when he was there in 2012 and 2013 with Robert Griffin III. They drafted Griffin III, second overall. He had that fantastic rookie season. He gets injured. In comes Kirk Cousins. They love him to death. Shanahan's dad, Mike, and Kyle love Kirk Cousins to death. They think that this kid's got a real future in the league. He comes in, kills it against the Browns in the game that Robert wasn't able to play, so much so that Robert feels threatened, comes back probably 2 or 3 weeks too soon, and plays on a leg that would later snap a month later, and everything went sideways after that, right? Kirk Cousins continues to play well in Washington, so much so that, again, another guy that fits the Mike and Kyle Shanahan DNA profile. Kyle Shanahan was willing to give Washington a first-round pick in 2017 for Kirk Cousins, and Washington said no, like some dummies. Anyway, Brock Purdy fits the Kirk Cousins mold, right? Late round draft pick. Kirk was more of a mid-round draft pick, but still later round draft pick than the guy you traded up to get to number 3 for in Trey Lance. Lance feels a little threatened potentially. I don't know that to be the case, but if he wanted Jimmy Garoppolo gone, which he did last season, I would think that he feels threatened right now, which brings us back to the original conversation and the 2 options, all right, that you guys are going to have to pick from. There's a post on IG. I already explained this. Rand Carthon, new Titans general manager, all right, was once director of player personnel for the 49ers. One of 2 options exist here as to why Trey Lance posted a picture of Rand Carthon and then 3 emojis of crossed fingers. Option 1, he could just simply be hoping that his guy gets the job and an opportunity to prove that he can get it done as a GM in this league. Rand Carthon could be his guy. They've had conversations in the building. Rand Carthon was a huge proponent of the 49ers drafting. I told you the camp around Kyle Shanahan had to convince him that it was Trey Lance and not Mac Jones that they should be selecting at 3. Maybe Rand Carthon was the guy that was beating the table the hardest for Trey Lance. Maybe Rand Carthon, who's a former scout, said, this is the kid that will change this franchise's fortunes. Go and get him, okay? And maybe he made that known to Trey Lance. And maybe when Trey Lance broke his ankle or maybe was a little disappointed he wasn't playing more in his rookie season, maybe Rand Carthon was the guy that went to him and talked to him and said, hey, kid, keep your head up. Your opportunity is going to come. And when it does, you're going to take full advantage of it because I know you're talented enough and you get it. And you're going to seize that opportunity whenever it comes. Just be ready, right? Maybe Rand Carthon was that calming voice for him within that organization, and that's his guy, and he just wants to see his guy win and get the opportunity to prove to everyone else around the league that he's fully capable of running an organization as its general manager. Maybe that's all this is. It's harmless, and he's just rooting for his guy, hoping that he gets the opportunity. That's what the fingers crossed are about. Or option B or 2, he's looking at this the same way Jared Goff had to be looking at it when Brad Holmes left from LA to become the new GM of the Detroit Lions and said, hey, Brad, please come and save me. They want Matthew Stafford. They don't want me anymore. Please come and get me, man. Give me a second lease on life, okay? And Brad Holmes said, I was in the war room. I was a part of the brain trust that said we should trade all the way up to number 1, not to select Carson Wentz, who looks like the better athlete and overall quarterback in the 2016 NFL draft. No. I'm advocating for us to go up to number 1 to take the skinny, tall, rail-thin kid from Cal named Jared Goff. Let's go get him. He looks like the real pro prospect here. So Brad Holmes leaves from LA in his position as director of player personnel, assistant GM, goes to Detroit, becomes their GM, and immediately goes back and reaches and grabs the guy that he beat the table for in LA in Jared Goff and brings him to Detroit. And you look and see what's happening there now, right? What if Trey Lance is thinking the same thing in San Francisco and he's saying, the writing's on the wall here. Things aren't looking real purty for me, okay? They are for Brock, not for me. I can see what's going on here. We might have a quarterback competition next offseason, but I'm not going to win. They want this kid to start, especially if he wins them the Super Bowl. Hell, if he gets them to the NFC Championship game, similar to Jimmy Garoppolo last year, how it's going to be damn near impossible to go back to Trey Lance. At least not without a lot of rumbling and grumblings from the fan base. And at first slip up, the first time Trey Lance has a little blip on the radar, like, 2-game skid or a bad half of football that leads to a loss, there are going to be people shouting from the mountaintops, put in Brock Purdy, right? It's a tough situation. Kyle knows this more so than anybody else, which is why if you're Kyle Shanahan and you understand that this dynamic exists, and right now, I don't know if Trey Lance's stock can get any higher, right? Like, he hasn't really played any football. I liken it to how players are evaluated in the NBA. If you like the kid in high school and he goes to college for 1 year and has like a subpar year, you're not going to allow that to deter you, right? You said, look, that kid was phenomenal, at the IMG Academy in Florida just 2 years ago. I loved him then. I still think this kid can play at a high level. I'll spend the number 7 overall pick on him. I've seen GMs do that in the NBA numerous times, okay? All someone had to do was love Trey Lance coming out of North Dakota State a couple years ago. Maybe that guy is Rand Carthon. Maybe Rand has seen this guy in practice, has watched him develop, and says, I know this kid can do it. And maybe Trey Lance is saying, I am praying, I am hoping, fingers crossed, that Rand Carthon gets that Titans job and he comes and he rescues my ass. Because this thing in San Francisco doesn't look good for the kid. Tennessee is ready to win now. It's a program that runs a similar offense in terms of it's predicated on the run, heavy play action fake, the shit that I was used to at North Dakota State. That's what they're doing in Tennessee. That's the personnel that they have. And they don't have a quarterback currently. I mean, they don't think it's Malik Willis. And guess what? Rand Carthon is going to come in there. And I don't know how he felt about Malik Willis. But unless he loved Malik Willis coming out of Liberty, which I doubt he did, unless he loved him, he's going to say, that ain't my kid. That's not the guy that I drafted. That's John Robinson's dude. Okay. That's his guy. My guy is still in San Francisco and I'm about to go and get him. That could take place. I think Ryan Tannehill's days are numbered. I know how much Mike Vrabel loves Ryan Tannehill. And Ryan Tannehill, I thought he showed a lot of balls and toughness and moxie last year by playing through multiple injuries. I still think that game against the Chargers where he hurt his ankle re-aggravated it, and went back into the game on one leg and played the remainder of that game is still one of the toughest acts of a football player by a football player I've seen this season. I mean, that was as gutsy as it gets. A hell of a performance. Fell just short of winning that game because he tied it in regulation, and then Justin Herbert took them down the field and got them the game-winning field goal. But I think the Tannehill ship has sailed. Okay, I think it's time to move on. He's taking you as far as he's gonna take you, as far as you're gonna go with him as the quarterback, and it may be time for some new blood in Tennessee. And maybe Rand Carthon does the Brad Holmes thing, reaches back and grabs his guy and pulls him along in Tennessee. I don't know. I'll just tell you this. Keep your eye on that situation this offseason. I don't know if this is a developing story or not, but we know in the offseason there are various storylines that we keep tabs on. Lamar Jackson clearly going to be one this offseason. Aaron Rodgers could be another. Tom Brady probably going to be one as well. Don't sleep on Trey Lance and the dynamic in San Francisco, because they got two quarterbacks and only one ball. Only one of these boys can play. All right. They don't have, and I've said this before, they don't have to make a decision right now. It is not a necessity. Trey Lance still has 3 years left on his rookie contract if you pick up the 5th-year option. And Brock Purdy is going to have 3 years after this year left on his rookie deal. They don't have to make a decision this season. They could make one after next season, because again, you trade Lance. Let's just say you trade Trey Lance. Brock Purdy, something happens to him. I'm not going to put that out in the atmosphere. Something happens to him early in the season, just like it did with Trey Lance. Jimmy Garoppolo is definitely gone this offseason. Then what? You're screwed, right? I mean, unless Kyle Shanahan has the magic, because I think he's going to draft another late-round quarterback, especially if he's getting rid of Trey Lance. He's going to draft another quarterback in the 6th or 7th round that he believes in. And he usually does that. And to me, that's the smart thing to do. If you're an NFL coach, GM, it's just every 2 or 3 years, every other year, whatever the case may be, draft a quarterback in the late rounds, a developmental guy. Why not? Just keep your eye on this situation. I'm not telling you to obsess over it, but while you're looking out for what Brady decides to do, Rodgers decides to do, what this saga with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens ends up being, just make sure you're keeping tabs on what's going on in San Francisco with Trey Lance, because I think there may be something there. Anyway, I digress. Let's go ahead and transition to social media maneuvers. I'm a midday marauder. If you're out there and you have any comments that you want read, go ahead. Use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. Super chats are the way to jump straight to the front of the line, okay? And ensure that your comment gets read. And so we will get to as many comments as we can today, and we'll see what happens on Saturday and Sunday. We'll get to those previews here in a second. But I do have a super chat, and then I have some hashtags to get to, and I want to do that first before I get into my preview and prediction for the weekend coming up. Silver Villains, my guy Silver V, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, "What's up, Louie T? What's going on, Silver V?" He said, "It's been 13 years since no Brady or Rodgers in the divisional round. Who is going to be the mainstay for the future in the NFC?" That is a crazy number. 13 years of those boys. Now, obviously, Brady just got there 3 years ago. This is the first time since he's been in the NFC that he hasn't been in the playoffs to the divisional round at a bare minimum. But wow. And I would venture to say, going back to Brady's AFC days, how long does that have? Because Brady was only eliminated once by the Titans. His last year in New England in 19, he was eliminated by the Titans in a wild card weekend. There aren't many times Brady, maybe the Ravens have gotten him. I think the Ravens with Ray Rice one year ran wild on them and they beat them in wild card. It's not often that the Patriots didn't make it out of wild card weekend. They weren't even playing in wild card weekend most weekends. They had that first round bye. So, I mean, and Rodgers, when he was healthy, they usually make it to the divisional round. That is insane, though. Who is the new mainstay in the NFC? That's a tough call, man. I mean, look at the teams that are left. It's Dallas Cowboys with Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers, Daniel Jones and the New York Giants, and it's Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, like, I can't say that any of these teams will be there every single year. This league is so crazy. And while Hurts had a phenomenal season, and we know the Cowboys are talented enough to be in the mix every single year, and I think this is the beginning of the Giants really starting to build something. There's no guarantees, man. Daniel Jones, his glass slipper could come off of his foot, and he could literally turn back into the Danny, because he's Danny Dollars now, right? He could turn back into Danny Dimes next year. And then that could be reduced to Danny Nickels and then pennies. I don't know, right? Dak Prescott could literally make it to the playoffs next year and get bounced in the first round like he normally does. Who's to say? I mean, Brock Purdy could not even, I just told you, he could not be starting next year. They could give it right back to Trey Lance and say, hey, we traded up to number 3 to get this kid. We're going to give him an opportunity. And he could be on the bench next year. I can't give you a definitive answer on that, because the AFC is much clearer. The picture is a lot clearer on that side of the bracket. We got the young guns that are going to be here for the next decade plus. They're not going anywhere. And so you could say, yep, Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, if you want to throw, and even though he's not in there right now, just throw out all the guys. It's plenty of them. You got a whole litter to pick from. Burrow's going to be there every year for the most part moving forward. Maybe Trevor Lawrence is now staking his claim, hey, we're going to be here moving forward. Like, you could pick from a boatload of quarterbacks. They're all young. They're all hungry. They're all talented, on good teams, well coached. It's hard to say that in the NFC, because this could be all flash in the pan. There could be no substance behind any of these teams. Literally, I told you the NFC East would be good this year. I did not think it would be the best division in football. But I said, look at the schedule that they're playing. It'd be hard for this division not to feast. And they did. They did the thing that I thought they could do before the season started. The sucks that the one team that I wanted to do it the most didn't take advantage of the schedule. But the Giants took advantage of the schedule. The Cowboys took advantage of the schedule. The Eagles took advantage of the schedule. Look where they are. Next year, shit gets a lot tougher. Try that shit on Buffalo. Try that shit on the Dolphins. Let's see if they have the same success that they had this year when they're not playing the Titans and the Texans and the Jaguars, right? Let's see if they're not playing the Colts, if they're able to have the same success next year against New England and San Francisco. We have to play that division, in Seattle and the Rams. Let's see if they have that same success next year. I don't know. I trust Kyle Shanahan, but I don't know what's going to become of the quarterback position there. They literally were a Trey Lance ankle away from probably not even making the playoffs. If he plays the entire season, they go through the ups and downs of a first-year starter who's just getting his feet wet. They could have easily been 8-9 this year instead of 13-4. So who's to say they don't go back to Lance? They get off to a slow start next year. Then they go back to Purdy. He heats up, but too little, too late. I don't know. It's tough, man, because generally when you want to put a team or, a quarterback, you want to have a quarterback that you can stake your claim to, right? When you want to hitch your wagon to this guy. We don't have that in the NFC. Maybe Jalen Hurts is going to be the next Donovan McNabb for the Philadelphia Eagles, and they're going to have this incredible run where they start winning the division almost every year and going to the NFC Championship almost every year. Maybe that's about to become a thing for the Eagles, but I got to see it first because they did a lot of basic shit along with some of the creative stuff that Shane Steichen did. And you got to give him credit. They did a lot of basic shit in Philadelphia. You know, a lot of slants to AJ Brown, you know, a lot of throw the shit up and AJ Brown goes and gets it and snatches it out. And, you know, that shit may not work next year. There's a lot of film now on, like, I saw the Eagles defended a lot differently by the Giants the second time around. You know, want to know why Washington was able to have more success the second time around against the Eagles? Because you've seen this shit now. I think if you play the Eagles, what they're doing is not super complex. All right. You just got to be disciplined. But they're doing the same shit every week. 3rd and 7, it's a slant to AJ Brown. Play with inside leverage. Take that shit away. If they want to take that, coverage that you're playing and they want to convert that to a 9-ball, okay, turn and run with his ass and make a play on the football. Have the safety over the top. I saw Washington make the adjustments. I saw the Dallas Cowboys make the adjustments in the second game. I saw the Giants with their JV squad make the adjustments in the second game. I don't know if they're going to have the same success that they had this year, next year. So it's hard for me to say, man. I wish I had a definitive answer for you, but there aren't any quarterbacks right now in the NFC where you say they got a young budding star on their team. Maybe it is Brock Purdy. It could not be, though. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it is Jalen Hurts. It could not be. It's not as definitive as it is in the AFC where I'm like Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. Like, these dudes are going to be here every single year. We don't have that in the NFC. So we'll see, man. I wish I had something for you. I feel bad because you're looking for something that I can't give you. Anyway. Mike Jink, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, "What's up, Lou? What's up, Mike Jink?" He says, "Where you catching the games at?" At the crib, nothing serious. I wanted to try and do a stream where we were watching it together, but my house is a madhouse, man. I can't put that on my wife, and I'll have kids running around everywhere, noise all over the background. You guys would be like, "I can't hear anything." I wouldn't do that to you. So I don't think I'll be watching it with everyone, even though that's kind of what I want to do, but I don't foresee me being able to do anything like that. I'll just be at the crib watching it, gearing up to do the shows, after the games are done. Should be a lot of fun, man. These are going to be 4 really incredibly competitive games, I believe. I think with one ultimately getting out of hand. But I think 3 out of the 4 of these games are going to be really, really competitive. So I'll just be at the house, man. Let's get to some of these hashtags. Rich writes, "The Thomas Brown guy seems intriguing. Also, Charles London will be the OC in the Senior Bowl, so we might get a taste of what type of play caller he is if our OC spot is available." Yeah, I talked about that last night, that he'll be coaching one of the teams at the Senior Bowl. The Thomas Brown guy is intriguing. So he's the tight ends coach / assistant head coach for the Los Angeles Rams. Anybody under Sean McVay is always intriguing because that's sort of the offense I would like us to run. Not necessarily the way McVay runs it, because I think sometimes he can even get stale as a play caller, and sometimes he can fall into the trap of, hey, I want to just get the ball to Cooper Kupp. But I like some of the things that they do, and I would like to see us implement some of those things. And what we've learned is that over time, the Shanahan style of offense is timeless. It doesn't matter who's running it, what form of the Shanahan offense, if they put their own little stamp on it or whatever the case may be, the shit works. You look at, Matt LaFleur in Green Bay. You look at, obviously, Sean McVay in Los Angeles. You look at Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota. You look at Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland. all of these coaches have made the playoffs, most of them in their first season with the new team that they're coaching. Kevin Stefanski won Coach of the Year for the Cleveland Browns, who hadn't made the playoffs since I think it was 2002 or something like that. They hadn't made the playoffs since, or 99 or whatever. It was some crazy number, and won a playoff game at that. It works, man. Doesn't matter where you take it. It travels. It works. So I'd be interested to see what this guy, and that's the kind of guy, if we get a different name, it'll be a guy like this Thomas Brown character that, who else is talking about this dude? I don't think he's interviewed anywhere else for an OC job, right? Like, he needs an opportunity, and he might be willing to step out on faith for a situation that could be over in a one and done fashion in order to get his name out there and show. Because even if Ron gets canned, and let's say the defense just isn't up to par, but the offense was killing it, even if he's not retained by the next staff, his name will be out there. People will be like, hey, he did a phenomenal job with Washington. Under the circumstances considered, man, we should give him a look for our OC job, or maybe we should consider him for a head coaching opportunity. That's the kind of guy that you're hoping we can get. I'm not going to hold my breath, but we'll see. I'm thinking it's going to be an old retread, which is fine by me because I get it. I understand the pool that we're swimming in, but we'll see what happens. Let's see. I got a couple of supers. I'm going to knock these out real quick. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, video channel writes, "Sup, Lou? Sup, video channel? When we get in interviews between yourself and Commanders players," my wife was getting on me about that just the other day. It's crazy that you bring it up, because she's like, you got to start doing this and you got to start doing that. And she's right. And I've been saying this for years. I need to get out of my little bubble. I got to learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I was really on the fast track to doing that before COVID hit. And then COVID hit and my whole mindset switched up. And I never really turned that switch back on. So, I was ready to get out of the house and, do these meet and greet events and things of that nature. And once COVID hit, I kind of put everything on the back burner. I stopped. My ambition to start talking to people kind of waned. And so I got to get back to that. So, yeah, I'm going to work on that, man. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm going to get my act together. Eddie, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Eddie writes, Louie, Eddie, Adoree is locking AJ up tomorrow. Guarantee. Chuck's voice. So you got the Charles Barkley voice. Guarantee. All right. That's going to be a fun matchup, because I really think, like, for as good as a receiver as AJ Brown has been this season, he doesn't really do anything other than be a big physical specimen. Like, AJ Brown plays like he's 6'4". AJ Brown is like 6'1", 6'2" max. He's not a huge guy in terms of height. He's just physically built. He's a freak in that regard. Big dude. All of those Ole Miss receivers that year, it was DK, it was AJ. Those guys they worked out together. They were physical freaks, right? And so he just muscles up guys. But if you can stand in there with him, you can run. AJ Brown is not a 4-4 guy. You can run with him. And you just got to be one of those guys that's confident in your abilities. If Adoree Jackson is healthy, and it sounds like he's finally healthy and he's up for the task, that's going to be a fun matchup to watch if he's traveling with him. But they got more than one. That's the thing that makes the Eagles so dangerous. It's not just AJ Brown. If your other corner isn't up to the task, Devontae Smith can get off for $130 with no problems. So it's not just AJ Brown you got to contain. I know he's the alpha, right? But they got a lot of stuff there, man. Dallas Goedert is a problem. Devontae Smith is a problem. If you fall asleep behind the wheel, Quez Watkins can be a problem. So they've got stuff. AJ Brown is the biggest of all of that stuff. We'll see if your guy, Adoree Jackson, is up for the challenge or not. All right. So, see where we are here. Gregory Lightbody says, thoughts on Thomas Brown? We just talked about that. Gregory Lightbody writes, also, if I'm Washington, I'm going after Mike McGlinchey and Cameron Sutton in free agency. I'm not that big. I'm a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan. I'm not that big on Mike McGlinchey. He's had his fair share of struggles in San Francisco. I think, and he's been banged up too. I think Caleb McGarry in Atlanta is more of a viable right tackle option if you're looking to spend some money in free agency than Mike McGlinchey. That's just me personally, but we played the Falcons last year. He's a mauler in the run game. And, you know, when you run it the way that they did, I'm not asking you to do a whole hell of a lot in the pass game. I think he would be very, good for Washington. But we'll see. And again, they may feel like we already got the right tackle in-house. It could be Sam Cosmi, and they may be saying, hey, you just got to stay healthy, dude. I don't know. We'll see. See if we got any more comments. Let's see. Captain Spartan that says, gotta correct your Lamar narrative on Wednesday's pod. Lamar loves receivers. Just Ravens value tight ends. They were ran by Ozzie Newsome, then had Todd Heap to Dennis Pitta to Mark Andrews. Nothing you just said is incorrect. And a lot of people have come down on me about that take that I had. I'm not backtracking. I have to see it first because I've seen him have some success with Hollywood Brown. I've seen him put balls right on Hollywood Brown and he's dropped it. I thought him and Rashad Bateman were doing some great things early in the season before Bateman got hurt. So there may be some, real traction and legs to what a lot of people are saying, which is that was more of Greg Roman's offense. That was more of the style of the Ravens play, like you said, going all the way back to Todd Heap and Dennis Pitta and now Mark Andrews. They've always been a tight end factory, but my thing is they continue to invest in that position. Hayden Hurst was a first-round pick. Mark Andrews is a third-round pick. They spent a pick on Boyle at the tight end position. They just spent a second-round pick on Isaiah Likely. They're not spending that kind of – well, they have tried. They took the receiver Miles Boykin, I think, in the second round out of Notre Dame. James Prochet, I think, is a third or fourth-round pick. The receiver out of Texas, that's the return man. I don't know why his name is escaping me right now. I think he was a third-round pick, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, they just spent a first-round pick on Rashad Bateman. They spent a first-round pick on Hollywood Brown. So I don't think it's for a lack of trying, but for whatever reason, they haven't had the success at the receiver position. You can blame, Greg Roman if you'd like. I think Lamar Jackson is partly to blame as well. So I got to see it to believe it. And here's my thing. I'm not willing to spend what it's going to take to find out. Okay. When you're going to spend the kind of money that Lamar Jackson is looking for, let's just disregard the fact that he hasn't finished the last two seasons. If you're going to spend the type of money that it's going to take to satisfy him, I need some guarantees. I need insurance. He can't give me that right now. He can't reassure me that, hey, back in 2019, I had a 1,000-yard receiver and I had another guy at 977, so I can do it. That doesn't exist. There's no data there that says, hey, you give him 3 viable options at receiver and he's going to maximize their talents. And these guys are going to flourish with him throwing the football. I can only say that for the tight end position. I can't say that for the receiver position. So until I can see that, I'm going to continue to die on the hill that Lamar Jackson isn't maximizing receivers. And I could be wrong about that. And I know you're a Louisville guy, right? So you're going to defend him through and through. Okay. There's a little bit of bias there. I know you. You got to understand. I know you. And I know where you're coming from here. And you're a Steelers fan. So, there is a little bit of, but your Louisville, pride shines through. I think that may even supersede your love for the Steelers. So understand where I'm coming from. I understand where you're coming from. We'll see. We'll see. Got another super chat. This one's from DeAndre Brown. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, is it possible for the Commanders to get Trey Lance? I mean, if they wanted him, I think there's a chance that he'll be available. I can't guarantee that he'll be available. I'm just, you know how I do. I throw out hypotheticals. I draw inferences from situations, but there's no real way of knowing if San Francisco's interested in dealing him this offseason. Again, we still have 3 more weeks of football. This week, championship week, and then the Super Bowl. If Brock Purdy wins 3 more games, we're not having a discussion about a quarterback competition. It's now, all right, what are you willing to give me for Trey Lance? Yeah, he's on the block. If Brock Purdy loses somewhere here, if he loses this upcoming weekend or even next weekend, there still may be confidence in him moving forward, and they're not interested in going back to Trey Lance. But I think there will be at least an open dialogue about maybe we should bring both of these guys to camp, let them battle it out, and may the best man win. But I can't say that right now as we sit here on January 20th that he's available. Let's see if we can go get him. And, I think Ron really liked him, though. He just knew he couldn't get him. Once the 49ers traded up to 3, that was that. But Ron, I think Trey Lance reminded Ron of Cam Newton. So I don't know. I mean, if he's available, I think that Washington could be interested. But after what Sam Howell showed them, I don't necessarily think they're looking to invest in another young quarterback, if you get what I'm saying. I think the only route that they're willing to go outside of Sam Howell is a veteran like Aaron Rodgers or someone like that. That's my stance on it. I could be wrong, but we'll see. All right, let's go here. I think I got a couple more hashtags. Read that one already. Here, Niners fan. Right, so we can't be playing soft coverage like we did against Seattle on early downs. They were checking it down for easy completions. Dallas will kill us if D'Amico keeps calling basic coverages. I think he'll be a little bit more aggressive this week because of who he's playing against. I think that was more of a byproduct of, hey, we don't think that they can hurt us if we just keep everything in front of us. You saw what happened. The one big play they had was the DK Metcalf. That's probably why he was doing that, is because he's like, if we just keep everything in front of us, Geno will make a mistake or there'll be a sack or a batted ball. We'll be fine. Like, they're not going to light up the scoreboard against us. The only way they can hurt us is if DK, and what happened? You got aggressive, and what did DK do? He ran right by you for a 60 some odd yard touchdown. So I think that's what he was trying to avoid. Dallas, really, that's not their offense. They're not running by you. And I mean, they got CeeDee Lamb. He's not a burner, though. They got Michael Gallup. He's not a burner, though. Right? Their fastest receiver is probably 97-year-old T.Y. Hilton. Like, they don't have burners on their team. So I don't think he'll be as gun shy. Now, again, don't think that CD or Michael Gallup or one of these dudes won't run by you if you're not careful. But I think he realizes that if you give Dak, we saw a great example of Dak Prescott was allowed with the Buccaneers did the same things, soft coverage, easy completions. He got into a rhythm, and then he not only got into a rhythm, he got piping hot, and they couldn't cool his ass off. They went and got an extinguisher, and that shit didn't even work. It was too late. I think he'll recognize early on, we can't give up the easy stuff. We can't play often soft and expect results against this team, because if Dak gets into a rhythm, we could be in some trouble. So I think you might be able to see him be a little bit more aggressive early in this game, because to me, the key is rattle Dak early. We've seen in games, most quarterbacks are this way. If you can get to them early, if you can rattle their cage early, you got them. You got them. Let's see. Got a super chat here from Rob Mart 116. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Rob Mart 116 writes, the Giants should have Adoree Jackson on Devontae Smith and double A.J. Brown with Fabian Moreau and safety help. Giants win 20-16. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. I wouldn't take my best corner and put him on A.J. Brown because you still need safety help over the top if he decides to take that slant and go vertical with it. You still need the safety help over the top because he's a physical specimen. I would just take him out of the game with I would bracket A.J. Brown because I know he's running a slant on 3rd and 7. I'm going to bracket him. And if he wants to take it outside, I got to do it outside. He wants to take it inside, I got a guy waiting for his ass. I'm going to take Adoree Jackson and say, you erase Devontae Smith. If you're as good as I say you are, you erase Devontae Smith by yourself with no help. And I'm going to make sure A.J. Brown doesn't abuse us on the other side. That's the way I would attack it, Rob Mart. Personally, I don't know if that's what Wink Martindale is going to do or not. I was actually proud of him for going against the grain. He's been a man-to-man blitz pressure guy all season long and against the Vikings. He said, if I do that, Justin Jefferson will have 11 catches for 172 yards and 2 touchdowns. I will not allow this guy to abuse me. We're going to play zone. And we're going to bracket Justin Jefferson the entire game. I would do the same thing to A.J. Brown. Same thing. Wherever he goes, no worries. We in and out on your ass the entire game. You want to run the slant? Go right ahead. I got a guy waiting on that shit. You want to take it up top? You going uptown? I got a guy waiting on that shit. That's what I would do. I think you're on to something there, Rob Mart. We see it the same way. Anyway, let's see. Red Wings 01 says, looks like everyone is mocking Christian Gonzalez to us. I wouldn't mind sitting at 16 and taking him, but I'd still prefer to trade back. Plenty of time between now and then, though. That's the guy that I circled. If we're going boundary corner, I don't think he's a nickel. I think he's similar to Juice in his size and length, but he's got more speed. But if you're looking to, again, I don't think boundary corner is necessarily, even with what Danny Johnson gave us last year. And we can't be sure that Danny's going to repeat that. We were excited about Danny as a nickel last year, and then he wet the bed in the preseason and got cut. We can't be assured that Danny's going to come back, but I saw a more confident Danny Johnson than I've seen ever in his career. Like, he's more comfortable outside than inside. So if you tell me you're keeping Fuller, you're keeping Danny Johnson, obviously Juice is back. I got boundary dudes. I need a nickel, man. I need a nickel. And so when you look at these mock drafts, they may not be understanding what it is we truly need. We do not have a guy that plays inside at all. We had Bobby McCain at the end of the season playing inside. He was getting cooked on a weekly basis. He couldn't even cover Richie James. I said this in the second game when we played it. If Daniel Jones would have just stared down Richie James on every third down, they would not have failed on any third down in the game because he was cooking. I'm talking about shit was up to 450 degrees. Bobby McCain. We need inside nickel help ASAP. So, and again, you don't have to take a nickel in the first round. You don't. I'm well aware. Some of the best nickels weren't taken in the first round. Most nickels aren't taken in the first round, as a matter of fact. I get it. I'm just saying, if you're going to take a corner, probably, and we could use more than one. We could take Christian Gonzalez and then go back and get a nickel in the fourth round. I'm not saying that we reduced to just getting one, but if you're trying to clean up multiple areas, maybe you don't overload, and trading back, you pick up more picks, then you get to fill more holes. We'll see what they decide to do. I've seen some of the mock drafts already, and I'm seeing some of the same names you're seeing. I've seen him mocked to us on multiple occasions as well. Let's see. All right. I think we're going to go ahead and I'll take this one from Cap. He says, currently 10 offensive coordinator positions available, but not the Steelers because of continuity. Despite being bottom 5 in scoring and total yardage, I saw a funny tweet from somebody. They had a picture of a guy with a mask on just staring. And he said, Steelers mood right now after Ravens get rid of Greg Roman and they still have, Matt Canada. And he was just like this. Man, that's rough. That's really rough. Anyway, I digress. All right, let's get to garbage time. And this is where we're going to break down divisional round weekend here. So we're going to go in sequential order of the games. We start on Saturday afternoon, 4:30 in Kansas City, where the Kansas City Chiefs will be hosting the upstart Jacksonville Jaguars. These two teams met probably a month and a half ago in the regular season in Kansas City, and I actually thought Jacksonville played them tough. So there is a bit of familiarity there if you are the Jacksonville Jaguars, which probably gives you confidence that you can not only hang with them, but you can beat them in this game. Now, if you're Kansas City, you're well rested. You've been here before. You know what it's like to be the young kid on the block. You were once there back in 2018. So you understand what Jacksonville is out for. They're out for respect, right? They're trying to take over the block, and this is your block. So you got to protect it. And in order to send a message to all the other young kids out there that think they can come in here and take over any of your space, your territory, you got to send a message. Now, I think what's going to be key in this game for Jacksonville is you got to get off to a faster start. You cannot do what you did. I assure you of this. This ain't the AFC West team you want to fall down by 2-3 scores against. Okay, you can try that shit against the Raiders. You can try that shit against the Chargers like you did last week, and you might have an opportunity, and you did last week. Don't do that shit this week and expect to have a similar result and outcome. You fall down 17-0 in this game, lights out, baby. I'll come tuck you in and read you a bedtime story. Shit's over, though. Okay, so you got to get off to a faster start. Trevor Lawrence has to settle down, and if you're the offensive coordinator, if you're the play caller in Jacksonville, you have to get him some easy completions to start this game off. I'm talking about a wide receiver screen, a slant, something easy that doesn't require a ton of thinking, and get him settled in. He did not get settled in last week at all. And before you know it, he had thrown 4 picks. Okay. You have to settle this kid down. And what did Doug Peterson say? He says sometimes Trevor can get a little amped up, at the beginning of some of these games, and he can miss some throws. It's your job to calm him down. Okay. It's your job to calm him down because he misses some shit. This ain't the game for that. Not against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs. One miss on a third down with an open receiver that results in you having to punt or results in you having to kick a field goal could be the difference between you being in this game or an avalanche ensuing and you getting your ass run out of the building. If you can hang around, if we look up at halftime and this is a 1-score game, it's 17-10 or it's 17-13 or it's 20-13 or it's 13-6. If we look up at halftime and you're right there, okay, you got a shot. If at the end of the first quarter it's 10-0 and by halftime it's 24-10, you're done. You're dead. Dead, I tell you. For Kansas City, I think it is imperative because I still think you can run the ball on Jacksonville. We did not see it last week because the Chargers do not run the football. But I think it is imperative that you run the football, establish Pacheco early in this game, and then I think you can throw the ball to the backside of the backfield against Jacksonville. We saw it last week with Austin Eckler. We know how big of a weapon he is for the Chargers. You have a weapon just as dynamic, a guy that has scored a receiving touchdown in 6 straight games for a running back. That is an NFL record. One of my favorite players in the league. Don't tell nobody. about the secret weapon known as Jerick McKinnon. I think he is a mismatch nightmare for Jacksonville, in addition to Travis Kelce and some of the other guys that they can get the football to. But I think in this game, if you're Kansas City, you want to establish the run and force Jacksonville to dedicate another defender in the box. And that's when Mahomes can start to get busy down the field to Kelce and Watson and Juju Smith-Schuster and Valdez Scantling and all of these other weapons that they have. That's when he can start to get busy to some of these other guys. And I think this is a great game for not only McKinnon and maybe Kelce, but I also think this is another great opportunity for them to display the rookie wide receiver out of Florida, Kadarius Toney. I think this is another opportunity for them to showcase Kadarius Toney and show what he's, or I think second-year player, mind you. I think this is his second season. Showcase Kadarius Toney and let him run the football, get it to him out of the backfield. I don't think Jacksonville will have an answer for him. So this should be a fun game, but I don't think the Jaguars are quite ready. I think this is the game that kind of loses control. I think they hang tough early. I think by the midpoint of the second quarter, I could see them letting go of the ropes, so to speak. Even into the third, they might be hanging tough. But at some point, they let go of the rope. It's a tug of war, and they're fighting, but they're losing ground. And at some point, they just let go of the rope, and Kansas City wins this thing going away. I think this is a Kansas City win, 29-17. I don't think it's going to be like a blowout, like a disaster, right? But I think it's going to be a comfortable 29-17 victory for the Chiefs in this game. I don't think you're going to see explosive Kansas City offense. I don't think you're going to see that, but I do think you're going to see consistent Kansas City offense. I think they're going to bog down once or twice and have to settle for field goals. But I think when it's all said and done, Jacksonville, they're a young team, prone to mistakes. They're going to make a mistake or two in this game. It's going to cost them, and they won't be able to rebound this week, and they fall 29-17. That's the final score. Kansas City moves on to the AFC Championship game. Nightcap on Saturday. Eagles hosting the New York Football Giants. NFC East family business. If these two teams said they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, well, that's NFC East family business. This will be of great importance to all Washington fans who will be watching. We're getting somebody on the couch with us this week. Okay, we won't be lonely next week. We will have company, guaranteed. Who will it be? Will we have multiple guests on the couch with us, or will we just have one joining us? Either way, someone will be sitting on the couch with us watching the NFC Championship game. So this game is crazy because on one hand, you've got the first matchup where everyone was playing, all the starters were involved, and it was a shit show on the part of the Giants. They looked ill-prepared. It was so many different points in that game I can point to and say, man, you just were terrible here. Like, how could you allow this to happen? They got steamrolled. I think it ended up being like 48-24, 27 or something like that. It was bad, right? Then Jalen Hurts gets hurt against the Bears, doesn't play for 2 weeks, has to come back and play in the season finale against the Giants, who don't need the game, which is ironic because here we were thinking Eagles won't need week 18, Giants will, and it ended up being the inverse. Giants don't need week 18. They've already clinched the 6th seed. They're resting guys. Meanwhile, the Eagles have to play their starters to ensure that they don't not only win the NFC East and clinch the division, but the number 1 overall seed in the conference and that bye, which is all important because Jalen Hurts was dealing with an injury. So they got to play their guys. Giants don't, and they still are hyper competitive in that game. Now, you could make an argument, hey, Eagles were, coasting. We've seen the Eagles coast this season. They did it in week 2 against the Vikings, scored 24 points in the first half, didn't score another point the rest of the game. They didn't need to. We saw them coast against Washington, scored 24 points in the second quarter, didn't score another point the rest of the game. That's because they didn't need to. Maybe they were coasting against the Eagles or the Giants because they knew that the Giants backups weren't capable of outpointing them in the game. I don't know. All I know is in those situations, you want to set the tone and send a message. And the Eagles did not do that. That now has the Giants, even if it's false hope and false confidence, that's what they're basing this game off of is, hey, our backups, our JV squad went out there and pushed your starters to the limit. So when we put our starters back in the game, we know we can compete with y'all now. So you started something. This is why this is the argument I was making with Eagles fans earlier in the season. Don't play with your food. Eat it. And they kept talking about, well, we didn't have to do this. We didn't. Just eat your damn food. Don't sit at the table for 2 hours because you don't want to eat your peas. Eat the damn peas and get up. Now you've given a team who should be just as confidentless as possible going in this game. They've got an abundance of confidence because they said, we know we can play with them now. And we did that without Saquon, without Daniel Jones and company. So what I think this game comes down to is, one, the Eagles' ability to, one, stop Saquon Barkley in the run game and also bother him as a receiver out of the backfield, because they find ways to get Saquon Barkley involved, whether it's handing it to him or throwing it to him out of the backfield. He is a huge part of their offense, and we know why. They don't have a ton of talent at the skill positions. He is the most talented skill position player that they have, so they do a great job of utilizing him in a multitude of ways. So with that said, take away some of the cheap completions, but at a bare minimum, they're going to complete because a lot of his catches come at or around or behind the line of scrimmage. So he's going to catch the football. There's not anything you can really do about that. What you can do is limit the yards after the catch. On first down, they take him and they motion him out of the backfield and they snap the ball, and then he runs out into the flats and Daniel Jones just throws it to him and he runs. It's a gain of 7 on first down. You got to eliminate that shit if you're Philadelphia. That's as good as a 7-yard Saquon Barkley run. That's what the Giants want to do. They want to stay in manageable down and distances. They want to be in 2nd and 3. Now the whole playbook is open to them. They want to be in 3rd and 3. Now Daniel Jones can use his legs on 3rd and 3. They can call student body left and pick up 4 yards on 3rd and 3 and move the sticks. You have to put them in uncomfortable situations. Make Daniel Jones beat you with his arm and not his legs, okay? And make him have to convert long down and distance situations on 3rd down. Make it 3rd and 9. Make it 3rd and 8 and say, Daniel Jones, if you can hit Isaiah Hodgins, if you can find Richie James on a whip route in the slot, knock yourself out. But we're not going to, because they're not pushing. The Giants don't have a vertical game from which to speak of. They don't really have many vertical threats. The one guy that could probably stretch the field vertically is Darius Slayton. Other than that, there's not a lot of speed on that offense. So everything is going to be underneath. They ran a lot of shallow crosses against the Vikings and had a ton of success with them underneath. Daniel Jones wants to hit that back foot and the ball comes out. Okay. You've got to take away that first read. You've got to make him unsure of where he's going. He's been so confident this year. That back foot hits the ground and that first read is open. That first read is open. He's getting to the second read. If that second read, he's getting into Saquon. Okay. You got to make him indecisive. For the most part, that first read has been open this year. They've done a really good job of scheming it up. And that first guy that he's staring down, that guy's getting open. Take that guy away. Whether it's Richie James or it's Isaiah Hodgins or it's Daniel Bellinger out of the, at the tight end position, take that first option away, make him indecisive, and then that pressure might get there. You led the league in sacks, right? This is the time you need to show it. Don't let him hurt you with his legs. We know he's capable, fully capable. So I think this is going to be a fun matchup because now the Giants are confident. They're confident. And I don't really know what to expect from the Eagles because this team has never really been here. This iteration of the Eagles under Nick Sirianni, they've never been here. Okay. There's still some holdovers from the Nicholas Foles 2017 magical run to the bowl. There's some guys still around, Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox and, not Travis Kelce, Jason Kelce. There's some guys, some holdovers that can tell them, hey, this is what we got to do. But this is a whole new group. A lot of young boys, a lot of outsiders coming in. So I want to see how they respond. They did not finish the season off strong. They lost 2 out of their final 3 games, and they struggled in the 1 game that they did win. They say that Hurts has no limitations. He's good. I need to see it. He was compromised in week 18. I need to see it. The Jalen Hurts that I saw, I don't want him taking unnecessary hits, but he wasn't afraid of contact. That man I saw in week 18 was contact averse. They can't win with him being that way. He's got to play with the same reckless abandon that he had prior to the injury. And I know in the back of your mind, he's a human. I know how important I am to this team. So now I'm not taking on a defender in the secondary. I'm looking to slide, and you might be sliding a yard or 2 short of the sticks. Eagles have been aggressive all year long, throwing 4th down caution to the wind. I mean, there have been times, a great example is the Giants game. It's like 4th and 7 from like the Giants 47-yard line, and they just go for it, and he throws a deep ball to Devontae Smith. Julian Love has a chance to break his ribs, and instead he goes for an interception, and Devontae Smith catches it and walks in the end zone. Are you going to remain aggressive in that manner in the playoffs, or are you going to clam up? There are a lot of things that we don't know about Nick Sirianni and this Eagles team. We're just going to have to wait and see. Ultimately, when it's all said and done, the Giants are playing with house money. All right. This game is going to be close, man. This is family business. This is the 3rd matchup. It's hard to beat a team 3 times. We've seen teams do it already. Okay. We've seen teams, the Bills barely beat a 3rd-string quarterback in Miami the 3rd time, but they did it. It can be done. It's not easy to do. The 49ers, it was close for a long time. They were losing at halftime, 17-16. They quickly erased that deficit and never looked back. But it's not easy beating a team 3 times in 1 season, especially when it's family business. But the Eagles, I just think they're too much for the Giants. The Giants are playing with house money. They're just happy to be here. You know, whatever happens, they're going to be proud of the season that they've turned in. The Eagles can't afford to lose this game because everything that they did leading up to this game will be a failure. People will be talking about, oh, okay, that was cute, but this is who you are. You can't lose to the Giants here, and I don't think they will. I think the Eagles win this game, but this is going to be tough, man. They're going to have to fight for this. I think they're going to win this game 26-20 over the Giants in a really good Saturday night football game. We move on to Sunday. You start off Sunday, I believe we get Bills and Bengals first on Saturday. Let me double check that just to make sure that that is in fact the first game on Sunday. I'm pretty sure of it. Yeah, Bengals and Bills Saturday afternoon, 3:00. So I didn't give you this, but the Chiefs are 9-point favorites in the Saturday contest. I got them winning by 12, so I got them covering that spread. Eagles are 7.5-point favorites. I got them winning by 6, so I don't think they're going to cover. That's a big number there, but we'll see. Bengals or Bills rather 5.5-point favorites in this game over Cincinnati. I think both of the Sunday games, I have the same feeling about both of these games. Okay. The team that makes the least amount of mistakes ultimately will win the game. Josh Allen has been a turnover machine of late. You can get away with it against the Skylar Thompson-led Miami Dolphins. You can get away with that shit against the Justin Fields-led Chicago Bears and all of the teams that they were playing down the stretch of the season that they were able to handle despite turning the ball over. Don't do that shit here against the Cincinnati Bengals and expect to advance. I'm just warning you. If you're looking to play in the AFC Championship game at a neutral site against the Chiefs in Atlanta, you need to protect the Duke. Okay? This Josh Allen running with the ball, loosey-goosey, fumbling, throwing into tight coverage, balls getting picked off. He's got to cut this shit out. And I love Josh Allen, and he's a playmaker, and he's dynamic. And it's a bit of that edginess and that reckless abandon that makes him who he is, makes him so hard to defend. But at the same time, it's also what could ultimately cost your team if you're not careful. Again, you can get away with that shit against Chicago, New England, Miami with Skylar Thompson as their quarterback. Hell, even Tua. Cincinnati's a different animal. Been there, done that. They got the pedigree. They got the experience last year. They were road warriors last year. Went to Tennessee in this same spot, divisional round, won. Went to Kansas City the following week, down, 20 points, 17, 18 points. I think it was 21-3, 18 points at halftime. Came back and won in overtime. They are not afraid, okay? Battle-tested and ready to do it again. But they're not better than you. They're not better than you. And if you come out and play your brand of football and you take care of the rock, you will win. You'll win the game. However, if this is another one of these 2-3 turnover games for the Bills, they don't produce any turnovers, they're going to lose this game to Cincinnati. This is not the week to be turning it over. So essentially, I think, and we saw this last week, the Bengals can be had in the secondary. They're trotting out Eli Apple as one of their primary corners, okay? The Bills are going to eat that shit alive if Josh Allen has time. They've got to get Lou Almirola and that group. They've got to find a way to get to Josh Allen, because if he's got time, they're going to cook that secondary in Cincinnati. Cook them, okay? So, again, it's all about Josh Allen, the pressure that they're either going to apply on him or his ability to avoid that pressure and take care of the football. Either way, they're going to have to find a way to not let the Bills receivers and tight ends destroy them in the secondary. I'm not so worried about Dawson Knox getting off because I trust the Bengals linebackers. I don't, however, trust their corners. So I think it's really cut and dry for me. I think the Bills defensively are good enough to slow down the Bengals. Not saying that they're going to completely shut the faucet off, because this is a dynamic Bengals offense. But we saw what the Ravens did last week. And I get it. It's family business, right? And so, but you can slow the Bengals offense down is what I'm saying. They scored 17 points last week, did Cincinnati on offense. The game-winning touchdown came on a 98-yard fumble return for a touchdown. Okay? So you can slow down Cincinnati. It ain't been many teams that have slowed Buffalo down this year yet. Buffalo slows down Buffalo. When they're not slowing themselves down, when they get out of their own way, ain't too many teams stopping them from scoring 24, 27, 30 points. So I'm going to say this once more. If the Bills can take care of the ball, just win the turnover battle. If you break even in that department, you're going to win the game. You got to take care of the ball. I'm going to just say this. If Buffalo turns it over, they can turn it over once. All right? They can turn it over once. If they turn it over more than once in this game, and I'm not talking like a Hail Mary before half that gets picked off. I'm talking about like real in-game turnovers. They turn it over more than once, they're going to lose this game. If they limit the mistakes, they're going to win this game. I'm going to take Buffalo. I'm going to assume, and I probably shouldn't do this, but I'm going to assume that Josh Allen takes care of the football, doesn't make the mistakes he made last week or the week before that or the week before that or the week before that. I'm going to assume he's going to have that Dak Prescott moment where we just assume he's going to turn it over because that's what he's been doing, and then he just doesn't in this game, and they win. I'm going to take the Bills in this game 29-24 over the Cincinnati Bengals. And then lastly, I think this is the one everybody's waiting on. I'll speak for myself. This is the one I'm waiting on. This takes me back to my childhood, 1994 NFC Championship game, that kind of stuff, man. Candlestick Park, muddy field, Like, this is what I think of when I think of Cowboys 49ers. Hell, they even gave us a game last year that was epic in the finish, right? In Dallas. But this one is in Santa Clara. The 49ers are 4-point favorites in this game. And this one is going to be a ton of fun. Dallas is coming off of their first road playoff victory since, you guessed it, that game I just referred to, the 1994 NFC Championship game against the San Francisco 49ers. That's back in the day when Deion Sanders was swaying the balance of power in the NFC. He played for the Cowboys in 94. He goes to the or he plays for the Cowboys in 93. I think I got it. I think he went to the 49ers in 94. They win the Super Bowl. He goes to Dallas in 95. They then win the Super Bowl. That's how it went. So Deion Sanders was swaying the power, balance of power. And it was crazy because they would pick players from each other's roster. Dallas took Charles Haley from the 49ers. The 49ers took Ken Norton from the Cowboys. The Cowboys took Deion Sanders from the 49ers. Like, that's what they were doing because they knew they had to get, I can weaken your team and strengthen mine at the same time. And I know you're the team I have to beat to get where I ultimately want to go. This brings back all of those memories. It sucks that I'm not a part of this, but this is my childhood. This is what was a big rivalry when I was growing up. So this takes me back there, the nostalgia of that. This game is going to be great. This is what it ultimately comes down to. Dan Quinn's defense against Kyle Shanahan's offense. Essentially, that's what this game I think is going to come down to. Yep, Dak Prescott and the offense, Mike McCarthy, all that good stuff. DeMeco Ryans in the defense. Yep, that's fine and dandy. This game is ultimately going to come down to Dan Quinn's defense because that's the strong suit of this Dallas team. To me, the offense gets a lot of the praise and the credit, but the defense is what's ultimately going to carry them where they want to go. Because we don't know what Dallas offense is going to show up from week to week. Okay. Are you going to get the damn near flawless performance you got out of them against Tampa Bay? Are you going to get the shit show that you saw against Washington in week 18? You have no idea, right? What has to remain constant is the defense has to stand up. And that's what's been pretty much constant this season is the defense has stood up. No matter what the offense is doing, the defense has risen, all right, to the occasion, has rose to the occasion. They've got to do it once more. If they can't slow down Kyle Shanahan's offense, if Christian, and this is the thing that I've been harping on all season long, and for whatever reason, teams seem to be getting scared of Dallas's offense or defense rather in terms of run the ball against the Dallas Cowboys. What are you doing? Run the ball. And don't run away from them. They're too fast. Run at them. Run at them. The Buccaneers bitched up and they got inside the red zone 3 or 4 times. Didn't even run it once. Run at them. They're light in the pants. You can run on Dallas's defense. Run the ball. If they can establish Christian McCaffrey in this game and Elijah Mitchell in a semblance of the run game, and that opens up those linebackers who start to creep up and want to get aggressive, that's going to open up that hole that Kyle Shanahan wants for that drift route to Deebo Samuel, for that drift route to Brandon Ayuk over the middle of the football field. It's going to open up George Kittle on that seam route. And now he's rumbling through your secondary. That's what they need. They need to establish the run to get that defense aggressively attacking the line of scrimmage to open up those passing lanes so that Brock Purdy has easy, quick, decisive decisions to make. Last week, and even the week before that, he was holding on to the damn ball too long. Last week, he was running around, pirouetting, running to the sideline, stopping, posting up, running back across the field, stopping, post. You can't do that shit against Dallas. That shit is not. He will be sacked for an 11-yard loss, an 8-yard loss. He will be called for intentional grounding. That shit won't fly this week. I need him to be able to stand in the pocket and find receivers, not pirouetting and spinning out the backside, because that backside spin out shit ain't happening. You could do it against Seattle, who doesn't have a ton of defensive speed, right? Especially after they lost Brooks, their all-world linebacker. They didn't have a ton of speed defensively. So you can spin out and have, big ass linemen and slower guys chasing out and run around and have fun. That shit ain't flying against this fast, ferocious, and physical Cowboys defense. You need to suck them up with the run game. McCaffrey out of the backfield. Make them respect your short passing game and make them respect the run game. Suck them up, and now those opportunities on that second level are open. And then you attack them there. And now you got them guessing. Do we come up to stop the run? Do we stay back in our pass assignments so that we don't give up that second level throw? And now the run game is open. Like, you got to keep them on their toes. And you got to protect Brock Purdy. He cannot feel the pressure back there. You keep him upright. You stop them from getting to him. You're going to be able to move the football. That defense is good. It is not great. But you're going to have a tackle for loss or 2 or 3 in the game because they're fast on defense. When you have fast, aggressive defenses, they're going to knife into the backfield. You cannot get discouraged and stop running the ball against them. You have to continue to run the ball against Dallas's front. Tire them out because they want to rush the quarterback. Wear on them. Lean on them. Deebo Samuel should touch it in the run game against them. Attack them consistently and then throw it. Brock Purdy should be a driver, but he shouldn't be driving this thing by himself. This shouldn't be Brock Purdy throwing it 32 times. This should be more of the Brock Purdy 22. Brock Purdy should be, 16 to 22, 17 to 22 for 204 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's the kind of game you should be. If Brock Purdy is, 21 of 32, you got a problem on your hands in this game. If Brock Purdy's 24 of 38, you got a problem on your hands. This should be Brock Purdy just managing things and keeping it nice and tidy back there. But I'm handing this thing off to McCaffrey. I'm handing this thing off to Elijah Mitchell. I'm dumping it down to Deebo in space. I'm getting it to George Kittle immediately. That's the kind of show it should be. You get an opportunity to pop them deep. They get nosy. You get Brandon Ayuk on a deep over route. Yeah, take it. But Purdy needs to be able to get it out of his hands. If he's back there holding on to it like he's been the last couple of weeks, you could have a problem on your hands. As for Dallas, offensively, the 49ers, they don't really blitz a ton. They're one of these teams that really like to just win with their front. They're going to do a lot of twists and stunts. They're going to run a lot of games up front to free up guys. You just got to pass that shit off. You got to communicate, pass that stuff off. And again, this is not last week. Dak won't be back there building a damn house. He won't be throwing the wide open targets all over the football field. There will be pressure. There will be physicality in this game. He will feel the pressure. How does he respond to that? I think as the weeks have progressed, the Cowboys' run game has gotten worse and worse and worse to the point now where it's not even a factor. 49ers are going to evaporate that. They're not. If the Cowboys can run it, they're in trouble because they haven't been able to run it for over a month now, pretty much. I think the last time they had a decent game running the football might have been the Titans game, maybe. And as a matter of fact, they didn't. The Titans don't give up yards on the ground. I don't think they had any success in that game either, if I'm not mistaken. You probably got to go back to the Jacksonville game or something like that. Their run game has become insignificant. I expect the 49ers to shut that down completely and then force Dak Prescott to beat them. If you can pressure Prescott, you will force him into a mistake or two. You will win this game. I contend that similar to the game I just spoke about, if Dallas can protect the football, they can win this game. I've already said if Dallas doesn't turn it over, they'll win this game. I believe that wholeheartedly. Dallas doesn't turn this ball over in this game, they'll win this game 27-23. but they are going to turn it over in this game. I don't think he's going to do it 2 weeks in a row. He gets hot, and he does what he did last week. Cowboys are playing in the NFC Championship game. And as Boss Man said to me the other night, the winner of this game is going to the Super Bowl in the NFC. I believe that wholeheartedly. This is, for all intents and purposes, this is the NFC Championship game. Not to disrespect the Eagles or Giants, but I'm disrespecting the Eagles and Giants. This is the NFC Championship game right here. Winner takes all. You want to go to the Super Bowl? Win this game. You'll win next week. Whether the team is coming to you or you're going to Philly, you'll win next week. This is the one, though. This is the obstacle, the hurdle that you've got to overcome. I got the 49ers winning this game because I do think Dallas is going to turn it over twice in this game. If they don't, Dallas will win this game. Dallas will win this because Brock Purdy is going to turn it over once in this game. Once. He's going to turn it over once. But I think Dallas is going to turn it over twice. And that'll be the difference. But if Dallas doesn't turn it over, they're going to win the game 27-23. But I think Dallas is going to turn it over in this game. And because of that, they're going to lose this game 30-20. 30-20. They may get a late field goal, down 10. No, they need 2 scores, kick the field goal. Do you trust Brett Maher? I don't. Not after what happened last week. So 30-20 is the final score for me. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the 311th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I see Mike Jinks says noted. He's taking notes. I just said that the Eagles were not a factor and that whoever wins this game is going to the Super Bowl. So that may come back and bite me in my ass. I'm ready for it. I'll be here, Mike Jink. You know where to find me. Okay. You know where to find me. But I said what I said and I meant what I said. And we'll see if I'm wrong about that or not. I think this is the NFC Championship game right here, though. I think this game is ultimately going to be what determines who goes to the Super Bowl or not. I got a super chat here on the way out from Derek Lindsley. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Derek writes, Lou, do you think Ron played Wentz so we would miss the playoffs so he could get rid of Scott, Taylor, and Wentz and justify getting a clean start? No, I don't. I mean, because what would have done more? He could have went to the playoffs and still fired Scott Turner. Nobody in the fan base would have said, but we made the playoffs, Ron. Why are you firing Scott? We would have been perfectly fine. Excuse me. If he would have kept Heineke in the starting lineup, or he didn't even have to do that. I told you, I hadn't have a problem with him looking for a spark. He could have started Wentz, inserted Heineke after the third possession when he threw another pick when we were trailing 3-0. The game was right there. Put Heineke in. They win that game, ultimately win the following week against Dallas and make the playoffs. Guess what? After the season is done, Wentz stinks. You can get rid of him. Scott Turner's still trash. You can get rid of him. You don't have to do that. And would it be a little bit tougher to get rid of Heineke? Sure. But guess what? You could bring him back and say, we're having a quarterback competition. We want to see what Sam Howell can do. Or you could have still went out and tried to, chase after a free agent quarterback or whatever you're going to decide to do. You didn't have to lose intentionally to do those things, okay? Trust me when I tell you, coaches don't lose on purpose in the NFL. That's a basketball and baseball thing, okay? Teams don't lose on purpose. You only got 17 of these things. You don't have many opportunities to prove that you belong in your position. There's no room for on-purpose losses, okay? This is a what have you done for me lately league. You will get fired. Okay? You will get fired. Ron wanted to make the playoffs, trust me. He thought he was doing the right thing and he didn't. Anyway, I digress. So you got my winners. All right. I think I just gave you all home teams. Let's see. Chiefs, Eagles, Bills, Niners. I gave you all home teams. Usually that's not how it goes. One of these home teams is going to get knocked off. Just like last week, 4 out of the 5 home teams won. 1 got knocked off. Somebody's getting knocked off. It could easily be San Francisco. That's the one I'm looking at, and I'm saying, I don't know. Could be Buffalo. They tripping. They could slip and trip up. I already told you, turnovers on Sunday will be the key. Not necessarily on Saturday. I don't think turnovers will be as big a deal on Saturday. Sunday turnovers will be the difference between winning and losing for both games. Anyway, I'll be breaking it all down tomorrow night. I'll be breaking it all down Sunday night. You know where to find me. We'll be chopping it up live together to break down all the action. Bart Scott, can't wait. I think it's going to be a fantastic weekend of football. 3 out of the 4 games, I believe, will be close, down to the wire, and should be some quality ball. Until then, I'm your man, Louie T. You know what it is. Get off the bench, get in the game, and kick it with me, your man, Louie T. Until next time, you guys take care. God bless, and good night.
LouieTeeNetwork.